Good morning, everybody. I am in the Dominator 3, as you can see. Trying an old school live today so far. I'm not sure if the date's even set up properly. Probably not. I got the potato phone as well. And I am targeting a supercell and tornado threat today across eastern New Mexico. Probably from the Vaughn area down toward Roswell, maybe even toward a little bit further east toward Clovis, but I've got Fort Sumner typed in so far. That's what I'm going to be targeting. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Team Dominator. Please dominate that like button. I'm doing an old school live from my potato phone, and definitely going to get throttled inevitably, but I got to get those life-saving updates to you guys. I got to Team Dominator headquarters last night under a beautiful mackerel sky. And now the Storm Prediction Center has upgraded the tornado potential up to about a 5%. Dominator because I am banned by the rental car companies, which is okay because I own a tank-like vehicle called the Dominator 3, and that is why I'm blasting west on I-40 right now. And I think that supercells are going to erupt at about 2 to 3 p.m. out there ahead of this upper-level low. It's a closed upper-level low, and just ahead of it, you've got strong wind shear and instability, probably dew points in the upper 50s, and we're going to be talking temperatures in the upper 60s. Those are like 10-degree temperature dew point spreads, and that brings that cloud base close enough to the ground to get some tornado potential. I think with that southwest and northeast storm motion, we're definitely going to need those low-level easterlies, that low-level jet out of an easterly direction. And anytime you have a meridional storm motion like that south to north, you really need those low-level easterlies, surface easterlies, flipping over to southwesterly up above a couple of kilometers. That is why the 0 to 1 kilometer shear indices do not work very good for the high plains here, because that shift happens a little bit above that. It happens like up about 2 kilometers, and that's why your 0 to 3 kilometer indices do a much better job at kind of showing what the true wind shear is. And Gizmo is located still out near the South Carolina-North Carolina border. Looks like a southeasterlies are just going crazy out here right now. It's definitely pulling the Dominator left to right. We got milky skies. Jordan H. Hall is up there near the Palo Duro Canyon. We got air freshener, supernova air freshener in here. And yeah, I'm talking about eastern New Mexico, west of Tucumscary and Clovis, out there a little bit closer to Santa Rosa, Fort Sumner, Vaughn, Roswell, but eventually getting a little closer to Clovis toward evening. Then I got to get up to Colorado for a blood panel so I can get even more jacked. Got to make sure that my prostate's not the size of a baseball, and see if I need to tweak any other things health-wise. And then I'm heading down toward Houston on Wednesday for a speaking event with American Express on travel. So then I'm headed to talk to American Express Travel Division on my complicated relationship with the rental car companies. So, and I love rental car companies. They made it possible for me to fly in and chase and do science and increase awareness for people in the path of these storms. But I'm now on the do not rent list just because things got a little out of control. One of my vehicles that I returned went viral, and I damaged it like 3 separate times during one rental. So got in some extreme conditions, some big hail, softball hail, like 150 mile an hour winds. Tornado, like a juniper tree was flying through the air, blew the windshield out, and obviously not purposeful, but just happens sometimes. So I'm thinking about college. I was thinking about watching college football, but then I realized when I woke up this morning just how important it is to never stop chasing, to get out the door, get to the target area, start storm chasing, and report those conditions as they're happening, report any tornadoes, warn people in the path of these storms. Yeah. No, it wasn't the Robert Lee one, believe it or not. It was the one that I had around the Greenfield Day, El Dorado, and the hail incident. up there in the Texas Panhandle. So, yeah, but they're coming after me for tens of thousands of dollars. And also do not rent list. But it's understandable and fine. You know, I understand. The viewpoints of both sides, but I'm just trying to get out here and do science, increase awareness for these storms. I've got a new sensor pack I'm going to be trying to drive into the tornado as well. That should make it possible for us to measure barometric pressure inside of the tornado, temperature, and dew point. And the amazing thing out here in Oklahoma is that the Bermuda grass is going dormant. You can tell it's the second season. Thank you, Lexa Fulmer, for being a Dominator member. Thank you, Team Dominator members. Brian is still changing diapers, so I don't think we're going to have our regular live stream today. I'm going to have to go old school like this at times. So please hit that notification bell. Look out for these live streams, because once I get out of Supercell Storm, I do plan on going live, even though the skies here are quite milky. Very milky skies out right now. Usually when you get these milky skies, it's a sign of kind of some mid-level stable conditions, static stability up there. But we got to go way west, up toward the higher terrain, the topography. That's what the high plains are all about, that gradually sloping terrain. Gradually slopes up toward the Rockies. And storms behave a little different at the higher elevations. You know, they have slightly different shear profiles with kind of those easterly winds flipping around to southwesterly, even westerly above 2 kilometers. So that's why I use the 0 to 3 kilometer indices, shear indices, when I am trying to predict tornado potential out of the high plains. That includes like eastern Colorado, eastern New Mexico, all the way up to Alberta, Montana, eastern Wyoming. I've seen a lot of freaking tornadoes in Wyoming. Tell you what, it's probably one of the most successful that I storm chase in is up there in Wyoming, eastern Wyoming. I am going through the Texas Panhandle right now. So I'm actually in western Oklahoma, but I am targeting Fort Sumner, New Mexico area. Probably staying somewhere in Clovis tonight. Probably storm chasing tomorrow again. So please help me out with a like rally here, because we can't use our old streaming platform, and the algorithm is definitely throttling the hell out of this live stream as I'm just going through my potato phone. But I will be going live throughout this event. Eastern New Mexico is one of my favorite places to chase, and the Storm Prediction Center has upgraded the threat to a slight risk with a 5% tornado probability. So, you know, hopefully ate your Wheaties this morning. I had like 3 breakfasts from Starbucks just because their individual Gouda sandwiches are too small for me. I have to get like 3 of those plus the egg balls, double espresso, and 2 large coffees. Well, you can see the back of the Dominator 3. It looks like a greenhouse back there. That's where we sometimes new media personnel, camera operators, Captain Vanover, you launch rockets from back there, but it gets very hot back there in the back seat, because that polycarbonate Lexan creates a greenhouse effect. That creates a greenhouse effect. I'm going to be changing my name to Teed Rimmer so I can start renting again. And we're going to be pumping out some shirts as well, some Teed Rimmer shirts for everybody. We're going to launch those on our store, which is currently getting revamped. And Edgar is hanging back today, but he is going to would be running our live stream if we were running one later on today. But now I think we're going to be doing some edits, some high quality edits. I'm going to ship him some content if I see anything crazy. But some of us are experiencing extreme burnout after tornadoes and hurricane season, just nonstop storm chasing. So at some point we're going to have to rest. I'm trying to rest and recover as I'm storm chasing. So trying to get 8 hours of sleep every night, exercise every day. I just fell out of the high category for my VO2 max. I'm now in above average, sadly. I'm gonna have to get that back. That's the first time in like 10 years that I have been outside of the high category cardio fitness. Never stop chasing. Yeah, that thumbnail, I think that was the Teed Rimmer thumbnail. One of my followers on Twitter started pumping those out. Tree Trimmer also was another one that came out. And just basically some aliases that I can use to rent vehicles if need be. UK. I studied abroad at Reading and University there in the UK, down at Reading. Great meteorology program down there in 2000 to 2001. But did have to miss a supercell of the rotating wall cloud that passed right over my house in Norman. And I was out there in England, and I definitely vowed that I would never miss another tornado season ever again after that. But I do think that there's going to be a large number of storms. Like usually in the high plains, sometimes you'll just get an isolated supercell or two kind of all by itself. And that suits the road. It's harder with the road network as is, just because it's a pretty coarsely spaced road network in central and eastern New Mexico. Look at these beautiful frickin' cottonwoods on the left. Fall colors. Second season. This is the second season for severe weather, everybody. And we have got bright yellow cottonwood trees. Platanus americana, I believe. It's the scientific name of that. A lot of times out here in the plains, you get those cottonwoods that'll be in a lot of the valleys, river valleys. The team is scattered about. Local man weather is up in Wisconsin. Edgar was going to be going down to Guatemala with his nonprofit, but he was so burned out from chasing all those hurricanes. He's going to take it easy, watch some football today. So I'm on my way out to eastern New Mexico. Then I got to go to Colorado and get a blood panel. So maybe I can even get my testosterone even higher if I can. But yeah, right now I'm just past X32. I'm getting beautiful out here, just admiring the fall colors. This Americana is a scientific name, I think, unless that's the American. But I was a national champion in tree identification back in 1996 in Science Olympiad. I've forgotten a lot since then, over the next 30 years. And so forgot a lot of the equations, even for mesoscale meteorology all the way up. Had to know every single derivation when I took the PhD qualifier exam in 2004, which was the last time that we had an active tornado season and an active hurricane season at the same time. This year, even though it was a below average hurricane season in terms of the number of storms, we had those severe impacts with Helene, Milton, and then of course the smaller hurricanes, Francine and Beryl. Damn, that wind is pumping out of the left. Very windy conditions. Ahead of an upper level low like that, it creates a pressure gradient. You have a low pressure higher up in the terrain and the altitude, and that gradually sloping terrain creates a phenomenon called a low level jet and these strong surface winds too. You can feel the wind, hear the wind just hammering the side of the Dominator right now. Yeah, Milton was interesting. That elevated mix layer that sheared out the south side of the hurricane and then started impinging on the Florida peninsula caused 42 confirmed tornadoes, including several EF3s I saw, or at least I think 2 to 3 EF3s. One of those was an EF2 in Fort Myers too that got upgraded. But in terms of the number of tornado warnings issued, with like 125 tornado warnings, I think that made it number 2 all time for an individual state for tornado warnings issued, behind Alabama, April 27, 2011, during the super outbreak. Milton was interesting as it dropped down to a minimum pressure of 896 millibars, becoming the 5th strongest hurricane in the Atlantic Basin in terms of pressure. Oh yeah, you can hear that low frequency roar as that low level jet is impacting the outer structure of the Dominator 3. Back in the plains. Great to be back in the plains, chasing tornadoes again. It ended up being a pretty active hurricane season in terms of storm chasing. What was there, 5 landfalls? Milton, Helene, Debbie, Francine, Beryl. I thought there was another one. But we had 6 in 2020 from the Gulf of Mexico, which was the record. So this year was not a record, one shy of that. Thank you, Team Dominator members, for tuning in. I know we had a little bit of drama with that, changing our AdSense and like not getting emails and stuff, but we fixed that. So thank you, everybody, for your support. You make our science mission tick. You make the storm chasing happen like this. Our disaster response as well. Can't believe we raised over $22,000 for a boots on the ground recovery effort there in Western North Carolina. That's on top of the thousands of dollars that we already sent. It'll probably end up contributing like 30 or 40 grand, I think, which isn't enough. I wish that we could raise a lot more than that, like by a factor of 10. But our plan, I think, is in our next live streams, once we get those rocking again, that we're going to start putting that donation link in the live streams ahead of these storms, and I think that'll get us the 10 times donations that we need for some of these big mega disasters. But I do definitely wish that I chased the Southern Appalachians with Milton instead of the Florida landfall. I saw somebody on there that was talking about how they were like 10 miles inland and like, this doesn't feel like a Cat 4. But if you're in Keaton Beach, you'd be feeling those 150 mile an hour wind gusts and see that 20-foot storm surge that would come in. And out there in the Florida Big Bend, you got to factor in topography too. It's pretty hilly terrain out there, a lot of conifers, dense pine forest. So basically that causes the strongest of the winds to just sail right over the treetops. And that's why you didn't have a ton of those real strong measurements. And there weren't any anemometers in that most powerful part of the storm as it came in anyway, but that's why if you're just even a couple of blocks inland with that complex terrain, like remember Hurricane Patricia there on the Pacific coast of Mexico, that one came in with like mountainous terrain right near the coastline and definitely caused the wind to follow that path of least resistance and just be a little bit elevated from the coastline. Tornadoes also interact with the topography like that, as do supercell storms. That's why a lot of times you see these supercell storms when they approach river valleys, suddenly they'll start funneling that low-level jet, and a lot of times that's when they start to go tornadic or will stop producing a tornado. But definitely a lot of complex terrain influences, and even on the neighborhood scale. There's even studies at the University of Oklahoma right now that are showing there's a lot more significant damage right at the end of a cul-de-sac, because a lot of the wind is funneled through the gaps in the neighborhood, and that'll cause some problems too. Just don't be annoyed, everybody. Just wake up and get some exercise. You'll be a lot less annoyed. That's what I try to do now is right after I eat a breakfast, I try to do a good cardio workout or pump some iron, and then it gives me a much better start to the day, and I'm a lot less annoyed with people around me sometimes. So here we go, milky skies. We got some mid-level clouds out here. There they are, mid-level clouds. I got the supernova air freshener in the Dominator. Refrigerator. It's pretty much like an apartment, folks. You live in this, you can see the red safety harnesses that we don't use very often. Yeah, thank you guys for almost 1 billion views this year with a B. We just got to figure out a way to monetize those a little better. But we get like 500 million to 1 billion views a year across all platforms thanks to you guys watching that crazy ass footage. And all of that is used to make our science mission tick. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this live weather report for the Dominator 3. Never stop chasing.